everyone, and welcome to my channel, Cooking for the Family. I'm Dyvonne, and today I'm going to share with you how I make my sweet potato pound cake from scratch. I'm also going to adorn my cake with a homemade cream cheese frosting, topped with some toasted pecans. First, I go ahead and I prepare my sweet potato. I like to go ahead and use a fork and just kind of prick the sweet potato all over. I have a very large sweet potato, so one's going to do it because I'm only going to need 1 cup of sweet potatoes for my recipe. So I cover it with foil. I'm going to go ahead, put it in the oven at 400 degrees until it's nice and tender. So I'm going to go ahead and bake the sweet potato. So my sweet potato has baked up. It is nice and tender. I use my little paring knife, and just to make sure that it's nice and tender, my knife should go all the way through. Now it's still hot, and I want to do this while it's hot or very warm, because we're going to make a nice puree out of our sweet potatoes. Now you can use a blender to make a nice puree out of your sweet potatoes. I'm just going to kind of do it how I always do, and that's just, I'm going to just dice up and cut up. Sometimes there's like strings. You'll see strings on your sweet potatoes, and so what I do is I just kind of go lengthwise, just like that. I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to make a bunch of just cuts and go lengthwise as well, and just go back and forth and kind of break up the sweet potato really good. This is something that, you know, I just learned to do it this way. And like I said, though, you can definitely use a blender. So once I have it really nice and chopped up well, and I've gone back and forth, I'm going to start scooping out the sweet potato flesh into my measuring cup, because I'm looking for 1 cup. We want to have 1 cup for our recipe for our cake. Now you can also use canned sweet potatoes. So you can use canned sweet potatoes, and you want to do the same thing. You want to chop them up and make sure that you come up to 1 cup of sweet potatoes. So once I have my cup of sweet potatoes, and I just kind of make sure that it's kind of evened out to my 1 cup line, we're going to go ahead and just mash them really well. I've added in 1 tablespoon of butter, and I'm using unsalted butter. So I have 1 tablespoon of butter, and I have my small whisk, and I just whisk back and forth, chopping up and blending my sweet potatoes really good, mix them well to get them as smooth as possible. Now once I have them nice and smooth, and you're gonna have just a tiny bit of little tiny bits of chunks here and there. That's okay, because when we make our cake, and once it's done, we're going to have just little bits of speckles of the sweet potato throughout our cake, and that just makes it so nice to see those little speckles of those sweet potatoes. So I have our puree all made with our sweet potatoes we have here. Now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get together our dry ingredients. I'm going to be sifting my dry ingredients. I'm using 3 cups. I'm going to use 3 cups total of unbleached all-purpose flour. Now with your flour, you want to use a spoon, and spoon your, not like a spoon, you want to use a spoon, but you want to use a spoon and spoon your flour into your measuring cup, so that way you don't put too much flour. You won't have too much flour packed down into the measuring cup, okay? And then next I'm going to put in my leveling. I'm putting in baking powder, and I'm putting in 1 teaspoon of baking powder. I'm also going to be putting in some baking soda as well. So I'm putting in 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Now in the description box below, I will have a list of all the ingredients you need to make my sweet potato pound cake with sour cream from scratch. But what I'm sharing with you and showing you is how to take those ingredients and put them together to make this wonderful from scratch cake. Now next I put in some table salt, and that was 1 teaspoon of salt. Now I'm going to put in my different spices, and this really brings it together with the sweet potatoes. I put in 1.5 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, and now I'm also going to put in some allspice and some nutmeg. So this is my nutmeg here. I'm going to put in 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and then with the allspice, I love allspice with sweet potatoes, and so sometimes I'll put it in my sweet potato pies in addition to the other spices. It's just really nice. And so the allspice, I put in half of a teaspoon of allspice. So I hope you're enjoying baking with me right now, because we're going to make this pound cake. It's going to come out so good. I'm giving you all the steps so that way you can make it for your friends and for your family for Thanksgiving or for Christmas, or you know what, my favorite thing is you making it just because. And so once we have our dry ingredients, I put that aside, and now we're going to start on the base of our pound cake. I'm using 2 sticks of butter, and this is unsalted butter, and you want them nice and soft at room temperature. So you want to go ahead and whip the butter until it gets just like well blended. Then I added in some light brown sugar. My measuring cup is a 1.5 cup measure, so that was 1.5 cups of light brown sugar. So I got the butter going first. Once the butter was going, my nice soft unsalted butter, then I added in the 1.5 cups of light brown sugar. I've got my mixer is on high, and it's really whipping that brown sugar in there with the butter. Now we're going to do our eggs. I have 4 eggs, and I'm using large eggs. My eggs are at room temperature, because room temperature eggs, as we know, is going to blend so much better into our cake mix, our batters. And so you want to make sure that your eggs are nice and at room temperature. Also, we're going to put our eggs in, one at a time. You don't want to put all 4 eggs in at once. You want to let 1 egg in and just kind of let it go, and then go ahead and then just slowly drop in the balance of your eggs, just like that. Now, if you are new to my channel, welcome in. And if you're a returner, I thank you for coming back. My name is Dyvonne, and on my channel, I love to share what I cook and bake for my family in my kitchen. Love sharing scratch recipes, semi-homemade recipes, dinners, and just different things like that. So if you enjoy that kind of content, I hope you consider subscribing. And if you're using a stand mixer like I am, make sure that you stop it for a second just to push down your ingredients on the side to make sure everything gets blended really well together. Now next, I'm going to put in some vanilla extract, and that was 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And so those were all of the wet ingredients, with exception of the sweet potatoes. We're going to add those in just a minute. But so far in the mixer, we had the butter that we had as unsalted butter. We had 1.5 cups of light brown sugar, our 4 large eggs at room temperature, made everything blend well together, got nice and frothy. We added in 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Now we're adding in our 1 cup of sweet potato puree that we made. And so go ahead and mix that together. And you see the sweet potato mix that we made. We have that all blended. Now we're going to put in our 1 cup of sour cream. I like to use the thick sour cream. I like to use this brand. There's another brand, and it's pretty much by the same company, but it's thick like this as well. And so, but in my part of the country on the West Coast, it's this brand, it's Knudsen. And so we're using 1 cup of sour cream. Now with the sour cream and the dry ingredient, we're going to mix them in, and we're going to alternate between the dry ingredient and then our wet ingredient, which is our sour cream. We're going to start with the dry ingredient, which is our flour mixture, which was the flour and the spices, the salt, and our leavening. We're going to start with the dry, and then we're going to alternate it in with the sour cream. So I put in so far about a scoop of the dry, then I put in a scoop of sour cream. Now I'm going to alternate back to the dry. I'm going to then put in another scoop of sour cream, and we're going to go back and forth, and we're going to end up ending with our dry ingredients, okay? And so just have your mixer on low, and if you're using a handheld mixer, you would mix them alternatively just like I had described, and you would mix, you'd stop your mixer, put your ingredient in, mix it just a little bit. And I have it on low because we want to be mindful not to over mix our ingredients. We want to blend them to a nice, and they're going to come together. Also, while I'm doing this, I went on and I put my oven is preheating on 350 degrees. So we ended with the dry ingredients. I still have my mixer on low. I'm let everything mix around, and then whatever didn't get captured on the sides, we're going to do a quick just mix and fold over with my spatula just like that. And so if I have a little sour cream at the top of my bowl, or if I have a little bit of my dry ingredients, I just use my spatula to finish it off. This ensures that we're not going to end up over mixing. And you see how I just kind of twirl around? And this is the texture, the consistency that you want your cake batter to be. I've gone on and I've sprayed my tube pan very well with some non-stick spray. I'm using a 12 cup tube pan, or bundt pan. You want to use a 12 cup. This one actually belonged to my mother, so this one is over 40 something years, 50 years old, this tube pan. And so if you have your tube pans and you keep them in your family a long time, like my mom said, you take good care of your stuff, buy quality stuff, take good care of it, it'll last you a lifetime. And this is well over 40 years because I remember her using this, when I was like in elementary school and junior high school. So she's had this for years, and so it got passed down to me. So once I have in my tube pan, I go ahead and I make sure that my batter is nice and even all the way around. And our cake is going to bake in our oven at 350 for 50 to 55 minutes. Well, my cake is out of the oven and it has baked up for 50 minutes. And what I do is when I was about 40 minutes is when I go and I check on it. And you see how it's a nice, beautiful golden brown around the edges and that center part by the ring. It is looking good. It is smelling so good. So while it's cooling, I'm going to toast up some pecans. Now, for the pecans, I like to toast mine up whole. I toast my pecans on low in my cast iron skillet. It's going to take about 5 minutes or so just to kind of toast them up. Now this is my tester that I like to use, and when I was saying earlier about at 40 minutes I'll go and I'll check on my cake just to kind of see how it's looking, how it's baking up. And then when it looks like it's gotten like a nice golden brown color, I put that tester in there. When that tester comes out clean, that's when I know, okay, my cake is ready. Because you don't want to overbake your cake, because overbaking will dry it out. And so you want to be mindful that you want to put a tester in, a toothpick, or either a tester like I have. So now once my cake is nice and done and it's also cooled, then I go ahead and I use that butter knife to go around the edge to kind of loosen it up, shake it up a bit. Your cake should start to come out, a little bit as you're shaking it. Then with one quick motion, you want to do one quick motion. Even though my little cake was trying to slide, it was trying to get away from me, but you got to stick with it. One quick motion, or else what'll happen is you're going to end up with cake on your counter and cake on your floor. And I've been there, and so I know it's one quick motion is how you want to do that. And so this is what it's looking like. It has baked up so nicely. And something else is that when you're cooling your cake, you want to let your cake cool for about 10 or 15 minutes, not too much longer than that, because it'll start to sweat inside your cake pan or your cake ring. So about 10 or 15 minutes is what you want to let your cake cool. And so now we're going to make our cream cheese frosting from scratch. I go ahead, I put in 4 ounces of softened cream cheese, and we're going to be using 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter that's soft. Normally I like to use salted butter, but if you don't have salted butter on hand, see I didn't have any salted butter on hand, I'm using my unsalted butter, and I'm going to add also a pinch of salt to the frosting, okay? And so again, so that was 6 tablespoons of unsalted soft butter. And it's important that your butter is nice and soft, and it's important that your cream cheese is also nice and soft, and that was 4 ounces of cream cheese. So it's important that those two things be nice and soft, so that way you don't have any chunks of cream cheese or butter in your frosting when you're mixing it up, or else it's going to be hard for the frosting to blend up and become as smooth as you like it. And so that's that pinch of salt, just a pinch of salt. A pinch of salt is basically 1/8 of a teaspoon is a pinch of salt. Now next we're going to put our powdered sugar in, and I'm putting in 3/4 of a cup of powdered sugar. Now if you enjoy sweet potatoes, I'll share with you my recipe for sweet potato pie cookies. It is my kids' favorite. They requested every Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I'll put a link in the description box for my vlog on my sweet potato pie cookie recipe, as well as if you enjoy sweet potato pie and pumpkin pie, well, I did a video, sweet potato pie versus pumpkin pie. What is your vote? So in the description box below, I'll have a link to that video as well, because when it comes to the pie aspect of it, we are kind of a house divided. So I'll put a link to my sweet potato pie versus pumpkin pie. I'll put that vlog in the description box below. I'll put a link to that. So I went on and I put in that 3/4 of a cup of powdered sugar. and a half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Go ahead, I'm going to let my blender mix it really well so our frosting comes together, making sure that I do stop my blender to push down the powdered sugar or any ingredients around the side to make sure that it gets blended well. And this is what our cream cheese is looking like. This is enough frosting if you want to frost your entire cake all over the sides, the inside ring as well, or if you just wanted to make it nice and pillowy on top and kind of cascading down the sides a little bit. And that's how I'm doing it. I'm just going to keep my frosting nice and pillowy on top of my cake and then just kind of cascade it down the side. So you can do it either way. It's kind of up to you how you like it. And so we're going to be using all of our frosting. Now once I have it nice and pillowy like I like it, like I like to have my design, I sprinkle my toasted pecans on top of my cake. I'm going to use a little bit more than half of the pecans that I've toasted, and you can use all the pecans, especially if you're going to do frosting all over your cake. And so this is what our cake is looking like, and it smells really good. You can really smell those spices, but I'm gonna cut us up some. We're going to try our pound cake, see how we did with it. And another pound cake recipe that I have from scratch is my 7-Up pound cake. In the description box below, I'll put a link to that one as well, to my 7-Up pound cake, which is another scratch recipe from my mom. So this is our sweet potato pound cake. It is looking so good. It is smelling so good. I see those little bits in there of our sweet potatoes. This is your bite. Go ahead and take your bite. Now I'm going to take my bite and see how we did. Wow. Y'all, this cake, it is so good. The sweet potato pieces that are in there, it is so good. The spices, that allspice, it just, it does something special to this cake. I hope you give this recipe a try. Share it with your friends, your family. Make it for your Thanksgiving, your holiday table. I'm going to be sharing this cake with my friend. Her daughter is coming over and bringing the grandkids. So I'm going to actually cut half of this cake. I'm going to wrap it and take it over to her house. And you know what? I took it over to her house. She gave it a try. She texted me back and she said, "Dyvonne, I'm on my second piece." Well, that is it for me today. Check out those links in the description box below. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I invite you to hit that subscribe button. It's free. If you like this video, don't forget to show it some love. Give it a thumbs up. Click share. Share this video with a friend or a family. And remember, it's always good when Dyvonne is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.